Hello and welcome. Have you ever thought about why some messages are different from others and what makes you laugh for one and what makes you trust a brand and another makes you act immediately? Now, what if I told you that none of that is accidental? Every message you see is carefully designed to control one thing, which is your perception. So this brings us to our episode on introduction to international PR and advertising. Welcome. In this episodes that will be happening for the next 9 weeks, you'll be learning about how communication is not just, a message transfer. You'll begin to see through it. Okay. And then you would learn how Nigerian campaigns move even to the global space. You would see how global brands also use communication to turn their messages into persuasion. You'll understand how messages move across cultures and also influence millions of people. Now, before we move on, my name is Dr. Roxie Ola-Akuma, and I believe that you're going to find this very, very useful. So please go ahead to like and subscribe to the channel. This is going to be very, very helpful. Thank you very much. So we'll move on. And basically, you also have to remember that we can start very simply to just know what public relations is. So you would learn how communication shapes perception across borders. Focus will be on Nigeria, Africa, and the global space. So simply put, PR is about building trust and managing reputation. Okay, so, for example, when the Nigeria Center for Disease Control tells people to stay safe during a health crisis, they are not selling anything, they are shaping behavior. So, think of PR as a relationship building and perception management strategy or process. A sensitization campaign, for example, fits perfectly into this because its main goal is not to sell a product. It is to inform, educate, and influence behavior for public good. So when organizations try to make people more aware of an issue, whether it is health, governance, environmental protection, or security, what they are doing is actively shaping how people think and how they would respond. It would also be good to take a look at government campaign versus brand adverts. Okay. So we've looked at what the Center for Disease Control can do. And also when the Independent National Electoral Commission encourages citizens to vote, they are encouraging and engaging in PR. These are campaigns designed to build trust, promote understanding, and encourage responsible action, and they rely heavily on credibility, clarity, and cultural relevance rather than, a persuasion to buy something. So while all sensitization campaigns may fall under PR, it is very important to make this critical distinction that not all PR is sensitization. PR also includes activities like crisis communication, media relations, reputation management, and stakeholder engagement. So, as such, sensitization is just one branch that is focused specifically on awareness and behavioral change. So, to bring it to fore, just remember that PR is about strategic communication to build relationships and reputation. It also focuses on trust, image, and long term engagement. What makes this different from advertising? In terms of advertising, we are looking for how to sell a good a product, goods or services, right? So when MTN, for example, Nigeria promotes a data plan, they are doing one thing, which is persuasion. While PR will say, trust us, advertising says, buy this, this is for you, this is good for you. Okay. So if a message is saying something like, buy this, it is likely advertising. So advertising in summary is the paid communication to promote products, services, or ideas. And it focuses on immediate action. It focuses on persuasion. Unlike PR, which looks at the long term, the advertising is for short term because it's to actually influence marketing, boost the market value revenue, and also boost the brand influence within the scope for where it is trying to penetrate. So the scope of PR and advertising is also a very key and distinct area that we can look at. And this includes digital media, global campaign, crisis communication, branding, and audience engagement. These are some of the areas, through which PR and advertising, take the fore. So we'd also look at key areas that are very, very vital when it comes to brand communication, brand engagement, advertising, international advertising, or even local advertising rely on these two areas because it is very vital when designing your strategy. Okay, local versus international communication, what makes it different? One thing is interesting here because a message that works perfectly, for example, in Nigeria, Africa, might fail completely in another country, context, or continent, because communication is not universal. While we are looking at what makes it beautiful in one area, it might just be very what do they call it now? It might be repulsive in another. Okay, so local culture, when designing your strategy, what advertisers or practitioners look out for is to look out for which area shares one culture, have one shared values. That same message will change when it moves to another culture. Why do messages change across borders? It's because, internationally speaking, there are multiple cultures, languages, and adaptations that are required. So communication is not universal. Remember that it is cultural. Okay? Internationally, this is what makes it stand out. So when we look at a product like Coca-Cola, for example, they might sell the same drink everywhere, right? But the story changes depending on the culture. It's the same product, but then it carries different meanings because what is taken into cognizance or consideration is the culture, the language, beliefs, and experiences, which would affect how these messages are understood. So this makes it very important that when communicating, they take into a key factor is behavioral approach, because the way you communicate will influence thoughts, emotions, and the actions of people. And this is what makes us say that communication is not just about what is said, but what happens in your mind whenever that message is passed. And it passes through three stages, because people interpret messages differently. So think of it in this manner: how do people respond to messages? Okay, across borders, in the same space, the same message carries a different meaning or weight. So we'll first of all look at the three stages, which are perception, emotion, and action. Perception is, did you notice anything? After listening to this, watching this, hearing this, did you notice anything? Emotions would be, how did it make you feel? So when designing, that is what you put in mind when designing your strategy or your message. Action, what did they do? What would you do next if you listen to this? What do you want them to do once they have listened, watched, or seen this particular advert or campaign? They all work seamlessly in the same way. So think of it like a seed, okay? That you're planting a seed. The message is a seed, but your beliefs, culture, and emotions determine whether it would grow. Okay, and that is why the same advert can inspire one person and be repulsive even to another. In terms of global communication flow, it is very, very critical to recognize that nowadays messages are not just the way they are planted, right? Today's messages don't just stay in one place, they move very fast. So we have platforms like social media, which is making messages move through the media very, very fast. Media culture technology is making it a different a ball game right now, because conversations have been turned into simple conversations have been turned into global conversations. One video in Nigeria can go viral in the US in just seconds, minutes, hours, So we now have what we call fast and borderless communication. This takes us to the role of media and technology. How is it important? What role is media playing? Now, here's the twist: people don't just receive messages, right? They reshape them, because no one is in control of that message once it goes out there. Platforms like social media are spreading messages globally. So the comments you see, the remixes, the criticisms, the shares, this is showing you that communication is no longer controlled. It is now co-created. As such, it is very important to remember that audiences can react, share, and even reshape the messages that you put out there. So, in summary, a key thing we can remember are the key differences between PR and advertising. In PR, we're looking at public campaigns, while in advertising, we're looking at brand campaigns, right? Public campaigns, the difference is that public campaigns is about social impact, national impact, the good of the people, etc. In brand campaigns, what we're looking at is the market influence and profits, okay, selling a product, an idea, goods, or services. So this will take us into a quick case study looking at the Nigerian space, okay? The Nigerian campaign is something we want to use to bring everything into a very detailed example. Okay, looking at the voters awareness campaign by the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. Now, the campaign in 2023, the goal in 2022-23, the campaign pushed one message: go and vote. Okay, and it used influencers, social media, and emotional appeal like hope and change. Now, this is PR because it's focused on behavior, responsibility, and national impact. Elections are at the corner again, and now what is it saying? It's saying go and register. Okay, don't sell your vote. It's the same thing. It's focusing on what? Behavior change. Okay, so in terms of PR, public campaigns, what we're looking out for are in sectors. Okay, it could be health, governance, environment, awareness, etc. All of this is to target local audience and their values. Okay, so it's about orientation, pushing one message, etc. So it's to build national impact. So let's take this further to see how campaign is actually changing behavior, responsibility, and national impact versus when it comes to global brands or brands that are trying to do a campaign to sell a product, service, or an idea. So we'll be looking at the Coca-Cola brand again. It's a global brand. So they might sell the same drink everywhere, but the story changes depending on the culture. So what's the theme here? Choose happiness. Choose happiness. Wherever you see it, you know that is it. The color, the code, the unique fonts, etc. All aligned with the branding scheme for Coca-Cola. But when it comes to Nigeria, what would you see? Looking at the economy, factoring some of the needs, within the country or the nation. What Coca-Cola is currently, trying to push out is saying win 600 million in cash and prizes. We'll have 2 millionaires, etc. How do you do it? They push you and send it out there. How to get, this. So they are pushing this so that as many as can, get this product would have a chance to win this. So this is a strategy that is being used because the story is changing depending on the culture. When we go to Kenya, for example, they're rebranding and letting you know how much. Has it felt like it's been expensive? So the branding tells you or it's now only, this amount. So you can get, this drink at this price. So the goal is focused on the universal themes, but then it's adapted to fit, different cultures worldwide. Now let's compare this with the Spotify Wrapped, by Spotify. In this campaign, what Spotify did was not to tell anybody anything, what to do. It just showed people who they were, through their music. And suddenly everyone started to share their identity online. What did they focus on? It's advertising, but they focused on connection, emotion, and then brand loyalty. So in in PR, it's talking about act for your country, okay? But then in act for yourself, act for your society. This is good for you. But the other one is saying that buy this now, get this now, express yourself, click here, subscribe now, etc. That is advertising. So a simple way to remember this every time you're thinking about it is that if the message is saying buy this, then it's likely advertising. But then, if the message is saying, understand this, trust this, or act responsibly, it is likely PR. So, on this note, want to bring it to a conclusion and tie the knots together. Remember that communication is strategic. What is the advert trying to say? That is when you're designing it, you have to think about it strategically. Who is the target audience? What is your goal? What do you want them to see? And how do you want them to act? What kind of emotions are you trying to create? If you can put all of this together, you'll have a beautiful brief and a copy that can sell. Finally, we'll be looking at a quick task before you go. We want you to try something like this. And you can find a way to decode what, the ads look like. From today, don't just watch advertisements, because once you understand how communication works, you can never see, the media the same way again. So find any international advert on YouTube, Instagram, or television, and then think about the message. What is the message? Does it make you feel something or want to do something? Then, most importantly, would it work the same way in your own country or your county? If you think it in this manner, you can be able to present, follow a template that will guide you all the time when you want to design your own PR or your advertisement. So this is actually for the advertisement corner. As we move on, we'll also look at PR. But key concepts that we would want to remember from episode 1 or this episode is that in this episode, we've been able to introduce to you international relations, public relations, international public relations, and advertising. And you've learned that communication is never random, it is very strategic. So we've explored the differences between public relations and advertising. Now you know that public relation focuses on what? Brand, building trust, and managing reputation, while advertising focuses on persuasion and promotion. We've also been able to discuss how messages change across, cultures, and how people respond differently based on emotions, beliefs, and experiences. Most importantly, we've also learned that the media is used to shape perception. So join us in episode 2 as we take this idea even further, because if communication can shape perception, then countries can also use communication to shape how the world sees them. Thank you very much. On this note, I'm Dr. Roxie Ola-Akuma. And if you found this very helpful, don't forget to, like and subscribe. This will be very, very helpful so that you do not miss anything. And don't forget also to turn on your notification so that you will get the next one without losing any info. See you on the next one. And thank you for watching. We appreciate your time. Bye for now.